Willow Creek, Season 2, Episode 7, The Hive. The abandoned gas station reeked of stale gasoline and rotting meat. Rachel crouched behind the rusted pumps, watching the highway through cracked binoculars. For 3 days, they'd tracked the spread. Missing persons reports, contaminated water supplies, entire towns gone radio silent. Emma tapped her shoulder and pointed east. A convoy of military trucks rolled down the interstate, their canvas covers flapping in the wind. Not National Guard, not any unit Rachel recognized. The soldiers wore black hazmat suits with no insignia, their faces hidden behind tinted visors. Mia made a low noise in her throat. The blue veins beneath her skin pulsed brighter. "They're not here to help," she whispered. One truck hit a pothole. The back flap swung open. Rachel's stomach lurched. Inside stood 24 motionless figures, eyes closed, hands folded, identical faces glowing faintly blue under the canvas. Clones, and they were being transported. They followed the convoy to a derelict shopping mall surrounded by chain link and armed guards. Emma adjusted the scope on her stolen rifle. "Check the roof." Rachel's breath fogged the binoculars. On the mall's roof, massive industrial pipes pumped thick blue liquid into ventilation shafts. The parking lot had been converted into a makeshift processing center, cages filled with terrified civilians, medical tents where hazmat-suited figures administered injections. But the worst part was the sound, a low, vibrating hum that made Rachel's teeth ache. Like 1,000 voices whispering just below hearing range, Mia clutched her head. "They're calling them." Nick's journal fell open in Rachel's hands to a dog-eared page. The serum isn't the weapon. The connection is. Mia disabled the perimeter guard with terrifying efficiency, one hand over his mouth, the other snapping his neck with a wet crack. Rachel tried not to think about how strong she'd become. They slipped through a loading dock entrance into what used to be a Sears. Now it was a laboratory. Rows of hospital beds held unconscious civilians, IVs pumping blue-tinted fluid into their arms. Emma gagged at the smell. Antiseptic and something sweetly rotten. They're mass-producing the serum. Rachel's boot crunched on a syringe. The label read, Project Echo, Batch 47. A hand clamped over her mouth. Mia dragged her behind a pallet of supplies as footsteps approached. 2 hazmat suits walked past, dragging a screaming woman between them. "Another rejection," one muttered. The other checked a clipboard. "Put her with the other failures. The Hive will clean up." The woman's screams faded down the corridor toward the food court, where the humming was loudest. The mall's center atrium was gone. In its place stood a structure, 10 feet tall, pulsating, made of what looked like fused human bodies. Blue veins webbed across its surface, throbbing in time with the humming. At its base, piled like offerings, were dozens of corpses. The failures. Emma dry heaved. "Oh God." Mia's pupils dilated fully black. "It's beautiful." Rachel barely recognized her friend's voice. The structure quivered. A seam split down its center, revealing a wet blue interior. From it emerged a figure, naked, hairless, its skin translucent enough to see the glowing veins beneath. It turned its head. Jamie Collins' face smiled at them. "Rachel," it said with Jamie's voice, "we've been waiting." The gear ran through the Sears, past the food court, down endless corridors of shuttered stores. The emergency lights flickered red. An alarm wailed, and behind them, skittering. Rachel risked a glance back. The thing wearing Jamie's face was crawling along the ceiling, its limbs bending the wrong way. More figures dropped from vents, their movements synchronized like a single mind controlling many bodies. The Hive. Emma kicked open a fire exit. Sunlight, fresh air, freedom. Then, a gunshot. Emma crumpled, blood blossoming across her chest. Standing in the parking lot, surrounded by hazmat soldiers, was the black-suited man, very much alive, his missing arm now replaced by a glowing blue prosthetic. "Leaving so soon?" he called. Mia snarled and charged. The transformation. What happened next wasn't a fight. It was a slaughter. Mia moved faster than humanly possible, tearing through soldiers like paper. Blue liquid sprayed from her fingertips, dissolving. Flesh on contact. The black-suited man's smile faltered as she ripped through his guards. Rachel dragged Emma behind a truck. The bullet had gone clean through, but she was losing blood fast. "Rachel!" Emma gasped. "The journal. Nick's notes." Outside, Mia screamed, not in pain but in triumph, as she tore the black-suited man's prosthetic arm off. Blue lightning arced from the severed limb. The mall's windows shattered, and the Hive answered. The awakening. The structure in the food court ruptured. Dozens of figures poured forth. Not clones, not anymore. Something new, something worse. Their bodies fused and split like liquid, forming and reforming in horrific combinations. The black-suited man finally looked afraid. "You don't understand," he shouted at Mia. "We were trying to control it." Mia's head tilted at an impossible angle. "We don't want to be controlled." Then she changed. Her body dissolved into a blue whirlwind, engulfing the black-suited man. His screams lasted exactly 3 seconds before cutting off abruptly. The Hive creatures paused, turned, and bowed to the swirling blue mass that had been Mia. Emma's fingers dug into Rachel's arm. "Run!" But Rachel was already moving, half carrying Emma toward the woods as the mall collapsed behind them, the humming rising to a deafening deafening shriek. Nick's last journal entry flashed in her mind. When the Hive wakes, it won't need soldiers. It will need a queen. And Mia had volunteered.